Well, hello and good morning. Today's question for Mr. Miro is, I draw a lot, but I think I don't have a style of my own. How can I develop my style? Can you help? Well, yeah, I think we can help. What do you think? Do you think we can help him? Do you think we can help him with his style? Today's question is all about finding your style. So today's drawing video will be all about finding your beautiful, hairy, fancy style, like Mr. Miro. So come and join the video, how to find your style. My beautiful baby. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about finding your style. What is your style? To be very, 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 very honest, you already have a style. You have a way of drawing that over these years you have kind of directed yourself to, whether it's kind of like you like to draw in a biro, whether you like to use watercolors, or that's kind of like part of the direction of finding your style. I've just got a reused piece of paper here to find the subject of style. In fact, on the back of this is three different styles already, and that's just me kind of playing around. Sometimes I just scribble around. Here is an ink one, here is a kind of like a brush pen one, and here is like a fine liner type of thing. So we could probably even start with that. In fact, there's 4 styles if you actually look at it, because underneath that I've actually made that wet. So that is a water-based pen, and it's just one of those kind of brush pen things. You got a fine liner on one end, which I very rarely use, and then there's a brush pen. And a brush pen I use quite often to scribble, to sketch, to come up with ideas. And what I've found there is, it's probably too dry now to move, but if I make it wet, oh, it's okay. You can see that ink, because it's water based, is kind of giving me like a watercolor. So if I'm to use that as a color base, as a discovery for a new style, you might find that this kind of water-based ink from a brush pen gives you a very nice, soft, kind of blotchy style. And that is simply by using this childish element of you, and that is about exploring things. And one of the beautiful things is that here we already have a painted style for a brush pen, or we have a brush pen. And the brush pen there, I've actually done it in a very simple style. But if I was to redraw that head, for example, and I actually used the brush pen with a little bit more thick and thin, again, it's kind of changing that style, developing our style. So I could kind of give him a thicker top to his head, and I could have really thin, kind of wispy lines coming off for his hair. Do you see? Like very fine lines, not as thick as what I've done there. And that would make my hair feel a little bit more thin. In fact, it's a little bit broken up there, it's so thin. And then, for example, then with the nose or the glasses, I could do the glasses quite even. Again, keeping it quite thin. And then with the nose, I could go back to that thick and thin. I could kind of give him a real kind of big, thick kind of nose. And again with the lips, I could kind of give him quite a nice big, thick. And that's, again, just using from the same drawing, but trying to find it in different styles. And there we have it. And now that's already very wet, so if you can imagine I'm going to put ink on water on top of that, it would explode. So again, if you was to take a, what have I got here? What have I got? There you go, pencil. So to do the same drawing, is that picking that up? Yes, hopefully. So if I was to do the same drawing in pencil, already you can see that it's looking very different just from being a pencil. Even though it's the same drawing, it has a nice kind of grey look to it. And with a pencil, maybe I would even do some shading, you know? Maybe I would even use my finger to kind of smudge it and soften it down. And that already is giving me a different approach. It's giving me a different look to my character. Even though it's the same styled character. And again, I'm just going to kind of shade in the nose. Again, just taking the same drawing and drawing it in different ways. In the same way that if I have, what other pens have I got here? Oh, trusty old biro. Okay, trusty old biro. Now, biros are lovely because I always kind of find that they've got this kind of very light style to them. They've got a very light approach. And I also find that with a biro, I kind of get very kind of sketchy. You can see I kind of double up and multiply up my lines just to kind of give it that kind of thick feeling. You know, and again, you kind of got that sketchy feeling that very similar to a pencil in a way. And you're finding your style is about which one you enjoy to draw. Which one makes you feel good when you do it. This is not a way of finding styles for doing a one-off drawing or a one-off painting. That's just find something that's fun, you know. Do something that's crazy and wild once. That's not finding a style. That's just exploring. Okay, finding a style is something that you will find it. You've tried doing the wet pen brush, and then you'll find the pen brush here without all the inkiness to it and the paintingness to it. Then you'll find the pencil here, you'll find the biro here, you'll find the ink pen down here. And finding that style is about exploring. And I would say if you've got your sketchbook or your notebook, to go through and actually explore it and to draw a character and draw it in 5 or 6 different ways as I've done here. And in that way, what it does, I mean, even if I was to dip in there and draw it in ink, for example, just to complete the whole thing, if I was to draw it in ink, you would find that already it's looking very different. And that is about exploring different ideas, if you want. And I like ink because it gives me that possibility to do a lot of thick and a lot of thin. And I feel it frees up my mind a little bit more doing ink. And there is already you starting to see some very, very, very different approaches to your drawing. And they look, each one has a quality about it. And you know, you can take the pencil, then you can add some watercolors to it. You could take the biro and add some watercolors to it. Take the ink drawing, once it's dried, put some watercolors on it and try and develop that style and try and see where that style is taking you. Now, part of this comes down to the fact of what appeals to this, okay? It's the very important thing that every time you draw in biro, you love it. And every time you draw in dip pen, yeah, I don't like it so much. Too much time waiting for it to dry, too messy, blah, blah, blah. But a biro, you can just scribble and draw and be loose. And it's giving you that middle ground between an ink pen and a pencil. So it's kind of got that looseness of the pencil, but it's got that darkness of the ink. So there's lots of ways there to explore different approaches. I wasn't actually going to use this as my example, but it comes across as the example, if you see what I mean. It does explain a lot. I can still do another drawing. Maybe I'll turn it over and do a different drawing. But what it is, it's getting to that point that every time you draw something, you draw it in a certain style. So I usually say to somebody, take a week or 2 weeks if you can, and every day draw a simple character, and then draw it in pencil, then draw it in ink, then draw it in biro, then draw it in watercolors, and then see over the week which one you kind of get to that stage where you think, oh, I'm going to do the watercolor bit next. And that's that part of love, that's part of attachment that you will build up. And for your style to develop, you need to have that attachment. You need to have that sense of love to that part. So once you start to get to that point of thinking, I love to draw in biro, I'm going to draw in biro more, that is the process of beginning your style. Once you've got the base of your style, well, you know, you can draw in biro 100 ways. You can draw it, you know, you can draw it in a very linear way like that, a very kind of, or you could draw it in a much more kind of shaded style, you know. And then within that enjoyment of drawing in biro, for example, you explore it out, and you explore some of the ways of shading, some of the ways of coloring, some of the ways of adding to the style that you love, you know, with your glasses, for example, like shading it down. And biro really gives you a lot of kind of powers, really. And that already gives you 2 different styles just from one pen. And there's lots of different ways. I mean, for example, if I was to use that brush, where is that paintbrush? What did I do with that paintbrush? I had a paintbrush in my hand a minute ago. I was just going to explain that if I used a paintbrush, okay, there's a very basic paintbrush. So I'll use a paintbrush and I'll put some color onto it. And then on top of my biro, I would start to think about what would colored inks look like on top of a shaded biro drawing. Do you see what I'm saying? So that now everything is kind of like taking the style that you're going in that direction and adding something to it, you know. Or does it look better just with the color, with that? And already there you're starting to divide your first step forward. The biro, I love the biro. Okay, the biro with what type of color? Is it good with colored inks? Is it good with colored felt pens? In fact, there's some felt pens over there that I very rarely use, simply because I don't really like them. And I could do, for example, another head. And again, this is kind of being very kind of basic on the exploration here, but it'll give you an idea of how to explore. Don't think about yourself as finding a style. Think about finding a way that you love to draw. So we'll take a nice fat end. What color is it? Oh, it's kind of like a browny grey color. Okay. And you can use these kind of felt pens to kind of give yourself a style. And even with that, I mean, you can kind of get yourself a drawing a style that's kind of like a little bit over the edge, you know, like something like that. That's, again, it's just doing a variation of a style. Or you can do your felt pen coloring with a black shading behind it. Now, here's where you start to find your attraction. Do I love that, or do I love that? Do I love that more than that? Do I love that more than that? And you start to find a way of drawing. For example, you could say, okay, I love this, but I'm not sure about, right, well, maybe if I was to draw my shape first, and then I was to put my pen on top, would that, oh, that's different. That kind of gives me a little bit more irregular shape. Can I do some gentle shading in there? Could I do some cross hatching in there? That's quite nice. So by exploring different mediums and basically get, sit down with some watercolors and some inks and some felt pens, whatever you've got, some pastels even, there's a pastel over there that I've just seen out the corner of my eye. Let's see if I can get that to do me a nice and basically what that's doing is it's kind of giving me another view. Again, should I put my biro on top? Does the biro even... the biro doesn't seem to want to go on top of, but maybe it could do something without an outline, Does that smudge? Yeah, it does smudge. Okay, that gives me a nice softness about the pastel. So by going through different processes and different mediums, you will find a door into what you love, and that will get you into that feeling of your style. And that is everything that, for example, there it's like, okay, I like ink, but I don't really know about pastels. Okay, can I put ink next to pastel? Biro doesn't like it. Oh, pink, ink and pastel. Okay, I can do some cross hatching. Okay. So maybe the biro is too grey. Maybe the ink is a nice approach. Maybe I could use ink and pastel. You see, you're starting to mix up. Once you've got a base of what you like and you start to add color or shadings or anything like that, you'll start to find a different version of what you like. And that is basically the basics of finding your style, what you love to draw. And don't get into a habit of getting to a point of drawing one. Don't draw this character for everything. Get to a point once you start to get 2 or 3 styles that you like, then draw a horse, then draw a cat, then draw a man, then draw a donkey, then draw a bird. And you will find that it will refine it more, because there'll be certain things that you will find that when I draw a bird in ink, it looks horrible. It looks messy and it looks heavy and you can start to analyze down to pencil. When I draw a bird in pencil, and then you can start to find which, over all of the different things that you've been drawing, about which style works for you. So I hope that is an answer to your question. It's a very short answer to your question, but I'm hoping that it will give you a lot of different... I just noticed I've also got the colored side of that. Maybe you could even do yourself as a colored line drawings. Is that your style? Can I do some shading with a colored line? And again, it gives you a very different style. It gives you a very different character. That's very different to that. That's very different to that. So it's about finding and exploring and enjoying exploring the direction that you want to go. Once you start to find a certain style that you love to draw other things in that style and then progress. And I hope that will take you. And I'd love to get some feedback on this, about exploring and finding what you always love to do. You sit down, you open your sketchbook and you go, oh, I've got to get those colored pens or whatever. That will set your style. That will set up you being happy with what you're drawing and being happy with the whole process that you're drawing in. And I think you will find your style much easier than looking around at other people and saying, oh, I love the way that Picasso draws, and then you're drawing and then you're saying, but I don't like it when I do it. Oh, okay, I love the way that Dali paints. Okay, I start to do it, and you start to hate it, and you think, oh, what about Ronald Searle? And you start to draw like Ronald Searle, and you also don't like it. Then the best way to sit down is with yourself and a few different mediums. Paints, get some pens, biros, any different types of pens. There's lots of ink pens and micro pens and biro pens and lots and lots and lots and lots of fountain pens are beautiful to draw with. But there you are. So that's a start to your finding your style process, and I hope that helps in some crazy way. I hope that helps. Just since I've started that, I'm quite curious just to see if I was to put in some orange around that face, what it would look like. And again, we're getting in there with some water, and that's only water at this stage. Whatever ink is on the paper, and it will give me a lovely feeling of a shaded character, you know. He's kind of got yellow skin, but there's a shadow on that side of the darker orange, and that is where you can start to find what appeals to you. I love that kind of. See, for me, it's a lot of times it's a messiness that I love. I love seeing things that are kind of blotchy and stuff like that, you know, like around the nose. I would just kind of stab the paint on it to kind of give me a texture. Maybe underneath, stabbing away, kind of giving me a texture. So there you can see a very different view from an ink painted style to a biro painted style to a colored pen style. So again, it gives you lots and lots and lots of different things to think about. So I hope that helps. If it did help, I would love to hear from you. And thank you very much for your question. And go and explore. Go and have fun. Go and be a child again. Go and get your pastels and your. Even if you go to your pastels and you think, I don't like pastels, or I don't like charcoal, or I don't like, just bring it anyway. Okay? Add to that whole childish experience. Get into that childish way of thinking that I don't know what pastels do. I don't know what charcoal does, so I will explore it new today. And you will find your style. And I would love to see your style, so if you've got a new style, send me a link and I'll go and check it out, see what I think. Alright? Have a very beautiful day and have great fun exploring the world of art. Okay? And I'll see you back here very soon. Bye-bye.